CS roll at night.
At nights.
I'm your forever DM, Timothy Farr, that doesn't really DM anymore, but we talk about Dungeons and Dragons.
Yay! I am your haven't DM'd in forever, Timothy Farr.
Right. One day we'll get back to the campaign.
2024. Right now, I'm making that my New Year's resolution to play D&D once a week on the radio, and by the radio I mean the podcast.
The podcast.
Podcast.
Even though we can't even get together to do the history of D&D every single week due to dogs and being sick and people dying and all that. So
I have with me Nick and Phil, obviously, as always.
Hi, Nick.
hi, Phil.
I'm confused.
Exactly.
And we're going to talk about
Taking giant loads of work.
taking giant loads. Speaking of a giant load, 5e.
Yeah.
Is that like a load of shit or a load of goodness?
Yes.
Okay.
A little bit of
fair.
both.
I mean, I guess that's fair enough.
It's a little bit of both. 5e, the current edition that we were playing in the campaign, where the campaign is really based off of, and pretty much all D&D now is 5e. Dimension 20 is 5e. Critical Roles 5e. Dungeons and Daddies, I think, is 5e.
Yes.
Adventure
Adventure Zone.
The Adventure Zone.
is 5e. Pretty much everyone plays 5e now.
Oh, the core that what got them popular was 5th edition, but like they've like jumped off and do some other things every now and then. But yeah, the core of their content and what made them so popular was 5e.
5e. So we're going to talk about 5e and kind of the history of 5e and everything about 5e.
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 Unrelated, I flipped a coin with Google Assistant 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and every single time I got heads.
Speaking about getting head,
Google Assistant.
5e was released.
July 3rd, 2014 is when the free Basic Rules PDF was released.
Oh, yeah.
To get a little taste of it, so that way you could get the basic rules, and everyone was like, cool. So, I mean, it's one of those things that, like, which I think it's funny that in 2014, like, they decided to release it for free, so you, like, get a taste of it, and you're like, ooh, I want more stuff. And then, like, subsequently, 2 weeks later, then they released the starter set, which was, like, a box set that looks just like the book that Nick is holding, that had like D6s in it, just a full set of like generic dice, a couple different, like one source book, and then like the DM guide, and then the player's handbook. So, which was like $25-ish, something along those lines. Nothing too crazy.
Yep.
The player's handbook was then released August 19th, 2014. The Monster Manual, September 30th, 2014. And the Dungeon Master's Guide was released December 9th, 2014. It's interesting how they split up those three books and released them kind of months apart.
I mean, but that was like what they did with like original D&D. Like,
It's true.
You got some things, and then that's when they split off the editions. They're like, you know what? Let's go with the tried and true method of like, let's just not let them know what's happening.
Right. I mean, at least they got the player's handbook out pretty early so you could start creating your character and seeing what classes and races were there. It's just interesting the DM guide was way later.
Well, the DM guide is more for like creating your own stuff. So they wanted to focus on some of the pre-made things they had and other content, which I think like Hoard of the Dragon Queen, Rise of Tiamat, and I think there was one other one were all part of their early release campaigns that they gave out.
Now, the first module for 5e was the Lost Mine of Phandelver.
Yes, that was that starter pack, which was only got you level 7.
I don't even think it went that far, honestly.
It might not have been. It was
Maybe 5.
short, and that came with the pre-made characters and everything too.
And shout out if you want to hear that campaign, that module played like for real. if you listen to the Adventure Zone, their first, the beginning, their first campaign is literally that, like a one-for-one recreation of it. But obviously put with the McElroy's spin on it.
Well, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, that was my first step back into D&D was 5th edition, and we had gotten that starter pack and played with Curtis, who had been on here before, and my ex-girlfriend Janica, and me, and Brian, and Drew, and John.
Never heard of her.
Exactly.
What was your character that you...
I was the DM.
Okay, cool. Well, all the characters, and now it's very rude. Well, then, the first 5e campaign that you played, what was your character?
His name was Balthazar.
Okay.
He was a dragonborn barbarian who never backed down from a fight. And, of course, I took him into Strahd.
That's literally every barbarian, though. No barbarian backs down from a fight.
Exactly. But, spoilers, if you play Strahd will let you run away. Because that's his thing. He doesn't chase after people. But if you have a character who railroads everybody into every encounter till it's finished one way or the other, you die quick.
Strahd's kind of like Freddy Krueger, I feel. Like, major Freddy Krueger vibes. Like, yeah, you can run, but I'm going to get you, so good luck. Tim, how about you? Your first delve into 5e, what was your character? What was your first time?
This campaign?
Didn't you, play, like, 5e and, like, the little one-shots?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, so what was your character?
The one-shot characters. I don't remember any of them.
Well, one of them got disintegrated real quick.
Oh, yeah, that was Renfrey.
Yeah.
So there's Renfrey. What was the little gnome that was
that, like the smut?
The smut gnome. Do you remember his name?
I don't remember his name.
Oh. Well, fine. I'll tell you about my first time. So, first time I had a rogue elf named Nuru, which is Elven for death.
I like it.
And so
Did you go assassination route?
Oh, 100%. So he was I can't remember the subclass that it was. But essentially murder hobo through and through.
100%.
A little racist.
Okay.
Did not like dwarfs. There was a big issue with that.
But you know what? That kind of lives up with a lot of the lore anyway.
Yeah, and so I really played into it, and I would only speak to elves and half elves if possible. And then, we had a dwarf cleric in our party, and I was an absolute dick to him the entire time. To the point where he actually complained to the DM because he thought that I was, being mean to him, but didn't realize that I was just playing a character. So, which, I get it. I'm a dick in real life, so, it makes sense. But, I was just, he's just man, this dude's, and, I would try to steal everything. And I get it. That was one of those things. It'd be a fight, and someone would go down, and I'd be like, but there's treasure right here. So then I'd get the treasure, then I would pick him back up, and literally the same dude complained and brought it up to the DM. And so I was like, okay, well, this is how it's gonna be. So the next time I played a complete opposite character, and he was so blown away. He was like, oh, you were just playing a character. I'm like, yes.
Yes. I'm not a porn addict.
Well, we didn't. This podcast is actually the intervention. Tim.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Also, we've got these black curtains around us. People just jump out in suits, hazmat suits. Give us the smut.
Yeah, the gnome smut. I had that rogue that I really liked.
Mm-hmm. I think that might have actually been the first one. Because I know I DM'd first, and I feel like that was the first one I DM'd for.
I honestly don't remember.
Phil, you should know. You're our historian.
This is true. I am the historian. It's just been a long couple weeks.
It's also been over a year since we did those one shots. I had the Renfrey. I liked Renfrey. I brought him into the campaign.
Let's just replay the podcast on the podcast, and then we'll voice over our commentary. That's a whole another year of content. The director's cut of D&D podcast. I don't think that's been done yet.
Probably not. Gosh, what was another one of my characters that I really liked? The gnome, smut gnome, and rogue, I guess, were the only two that I really liked.
Shelby made their way into every single campaign.
Good old Shelby.
I didn't really like the bard or the barbarian that I played,
Was that the one?
where we went to like the abyssal. No, not the. God damn it! The space.
Oh, the one where
Dimension.
you guys got a gun.
Yeah, that one.
I can't remember that. I just remember the gun.
Yeah, that was another one
That's
that
all
I
you
did.
guys are just talking about. Oh, we got a gun.
I
then
want
Ryan
a
in the
laser
next-
gun.
Yeah, and then Ryan's like in the next one is like, I want a gun.
And I don't remember the one a character that I had where we did Curtis's campaign.
I wasn't there for that one, but if I remember correctly, I thought you had either a warlock or a wizard.
I don't remember.
A Whizlock.
A Whizlock.
I think it might have been a wizard.
Or a Warzord.
I don't.
Warzord or a Whizlock.
Yeah, I mean, it's so long ago, and I don't remember. I just remember the rogue and the smut gnome.
Yeah, I think everyone remembers this Smut Gnome. Little pervy guy.
Just riding on people's backs, looking at smut.
I don't even remember what class I was. I just remember you liked porn.
Druid?
Yeah,
No, I don't think I played
I
a
think
druid.
it was a wizard or a sorcerer.
It might have been a wizard or a sorcerer.
But like,
I remember being stuck on the table.
but like a horny gnome, you just automatically think of Sam Riegel and
Scanlan, yeah.
Scanlan.
True.
Which I don't know if you saw, he won an Emmy.
Another Emmy.
So now he's got
Nice.
2 of them. So now he's really
Nice.
going to
It's gonna let
rub
it all
it
go
in.
to his head.
Yeah. I haven't been catching up on any of
Maybe
the
that was a
Critical Role
bard.
stuff.
I honestly don't remember.
Well, fans of the show, if you want to go back and listen to some of the original
One shot.
one-shots, hit us up at the BS Roll. We've been real busy on social media lately.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yep.
I've been so like bogged down with my campaign characters and keeping them in line that I've forgotten the one-shot ones.
Which is
So-
fair.
You said you'd never forget. Hashtag 9/11.
Oh no, my
Our
favorite,
favorite holiday.
Because like Mav is your stereotypical rogue guy
Yep.
who likes boats.
And hose.
I don't think there's any other rogue that I know that likes boats.
Absolutely.
That's what makes him unique.
True.
Well, isn't there? We'll get into it eventually. This swashbuckler subclass is that a
Mhm.
rogue?
Swashbuckler,
Or is it
I
a-
think,
It's
is a fighter.
Fighter,
yeah,
yeah.
it's a fighter.
Okay.
It makes fighters kind of roguey.
Ooh, tell me about that roguey.
Ooh.
Ooh. So
Sorry, guys, this is a very horny start.
we're gonna be talking about D&D smut.
Yup.
5e introduced the advantage and disadvantage system,
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
where you have advantage and disadvantage on certain things.
So, like, it just means that I do good or I do bad?
Sometimes it's just situational.
Yep. Well, you know, instead of in 4th edition where they had the positive and negative modifiers that went onto your rolls, instead you roll 2 d20s, and if you have advantage, you take the higher number, and if you have disadvantage, you take the lower number. So it made it more, instead of having to calculate and add more shit together, it made it into a little bit more of a smooth transition because, you know, people who play D&D can't math.
Well, Tim can't math.
Yes.
That's not true. Other people can do basic math.
I cannot.
I am curious, though, and this is honestly something that I never looked up, is if you have advantage, can you choose to take the lower number? Like, if you want to fail
I
something?
mean, I don't. Well, then you would just
You would just choose to fail.
yeah.
Like when I did Zone of Truth on the party, you can choose to fail that.
Fair enough.
There's certain situations where you can just choose to fail if you want to.
Because I really want it to be like where the DM's trying so hard to like let you do it, and you're like, I choose to fail. I can't get out of this hole.
Yeah, you could.
Perfect.
I mean, at that point, I guess you could just be like, I'm going to pretend to get out of this hole.
Perfect. All right. Taking down notes.
I mean, there's weird mechanics in 5e where you can have advantage, but then you have a disadvantage, so then it's a straight roll.
Yep.
That gets a little wonky.
Like if you're doing a melee against a guy who's prone, but then you have something else like Bane or whatever that gives you disadvantage, then they just cancel each other out.
And the band gives you a -4.
whatever. You know.
Well, it gives you minus a D4.
Yeah, minus a D4.
That's right.
Oh.
There are other things that give you disadvantage.
Yes. That
Being
can,
blinded.
yeah.
There you go.
Or if a prone individual is indivisible. Indivisible?
Indivisible.
Indivisible.
Our country
Indivisible under us all.
God
with
damn it.
liberty
You know what I mean.
and D&D smut for all.
Yep. So you would get it, a straight
Yep.
roll.
Yep.
It also, I think 5e does a better job at role play because you have like your charismatic stats, your sleight of hand. When are you going to use sleight of hand outside of role play? I guess you could in combat, but it's not going to be really.
I only use
Great.
sleight of hand in roleplay.
You could be
That's what I mean.
trying to pickpocket something off a big bad that, the nuclear codes
From the
to
president,
cancel it, whatever.
Yep.
But you're in combat, so you have to be.
right? But
yeah.
it's mostly a mechanic for role playing.
Yep.
Whereas 4e is very much no, it's for combat only.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's because everything they did led you to combat.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Emphasizes tactical combat with video game feel and highly structured rules versus 5e was hey, tell us how you feel.
Yeah.
Less emphasis on the rules. Even though there are rules in place, I feel like it's been left for interpretation. And you'll see that a lot of times is if you can convince a DM why this makes sense, then they'll allow it or they'll give you an advantage for it. So
Pretty much.
It seems like the rules in 5e are purposely vague, so the DM has to interpret that.
Which most times is nice. Sometimes it's annoying.
100%.
Especially if you have people who are super into argumentativeness with DMs and want to argue rules all the time.
Everything's black and white. And it's actually kind of vague.
Yeah. Which, in our campaign, we'll talk about stuff and someone will bring it up and I don't know if that's how that reads, and we talk it over for a quick second. Now, granted, we're trying to play, so I'm not trying to super get into it. And, usually I'll just come up with a calling really quick. But, if you explain, how you interpret this and it makes sense and everyone else agrees, I'll be like, all right, cool, we'll go that way. But other times I'm just nope,
So you've alluded to it. Who gets final say, Nick?
I do.
And who are you in this campaign?
The DM
Okay.
or when
Or
I'm
just
a player.
I mean, a lot of times I will bounce things off of Nick when I'm DMing because he's the most knowledgeable about 5e. And now I can bounce things off of you, but we've only played.
I just pretend
twice.
I know what I'm talking about.
And what's funny is, I mentioned, my first time playing 5e is this, with the one-shots and whatnot, but I got most of my knowledge watching Critical Role.
I mean, that's the best way to. I think everyone does, and I think that is a great thing and a terrible thing because, you see, how romantic, Matt Mercer is with how he does it. But he's been doing it for a long time, and then you're like, all right, cool, I'm gonna be Matt Mercer, and then you're like,
Oh, no, I'm not.
there's a
your bargain brand Matt Mercer.
yeah,
Bert Furser.
Merker. So I mean, that is one thing to take into consideration is there's so many different ways to DM. The rules are vague, interpret them how you want, but also within reason and be open to it because if you're not open to it, no one's gonna have fun, and if you don't bring your players in, they're gonna be okay, well, I don't want to play.
Right.
And I'll say as a DM, a good thing to note is when you come across rules that are kind of vague and people want to be one way or the other on it, take note, write it down, maybe do a little research, see what other people do, come up with your decision, and then stick with it on how you're going to address it. Even if you chose one way in the middle of a campaign and then you decided to come back later, just make it known to players, and maybe sometimes just have your sheet of house rules on how you do stuff, because it'll make playing with people a lot easier as a DM, so that people don't want to argue with you.
Do you have a house rule that you created that you carry from campaign to campaign?
Not specifically. Most of it, I mean, a lot of my campaigns have been all with this pretty much the same people, so they've gotten used to how I play. But I've played with our friend Michael being a DM where one session he'll say this and then the next session he'll say the opposite. And I'm like, dude, I don't care what ruling you make as long as you just make it consistent. But if you start flip-flopping from session to session on what you're doing, it gets frustrating for the players and for you because then everyone wants to argue anyway.
I love it. I think my new house rule is I'm going to add a +1 to every skill check each time.
Done.
Making it harder and harder. Like, I want to open this door. Roll a d20. Sorry, you had to roll a 22.
The DM guide goes up to a DC 30.
House rules, I can go as high as I want.
I mean, you could.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
I think the highest roll you can mathematically get is like a 40.
I think so.
Close to it, probably, yeah.
Well, like
And it's on certain things too. It's not like everything.
my perception for my cleric, and he's only 13, is a +14.
Yep.
So I don't think it's going to go higher than that. Maybe 15, 16.
Well, you can add a couple things in like with stealth, you've got pass without a trace, and I guess in theory you could also cast guidance.
Yeah.
Plus any bonuses, and as a rogue, you can double your modifier and all kinds of stuff. So a couple of them probably a little bit higher, but for the most part,
Mid 30s.
yeah.
Is going to be your.
But like perception checks, at this point I pretty much stop asking you and Brian to roll perception because you're so fucking high.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would have to roll terribly. Again, I have a +14.
Well, and that's the thing, like with perception checks, your passive perception's already in the 20s.
I think it's a 24.
So, if it's something stealth or really hard DC, you're going to automatically see it with passive perception anyway. So,
Right.
So the highest bonus achievable through official rules and published materials is a +17, and that would be in a strength or dexterity roll.
Yeah.
because of the barbarian.
It doesn't necessarily specify it. It just says based on like proficiencies and relevant skills. It's a general thing. I didn't pull it up and find it exactly and do all the math and the a minute and a half that you gave me.
Why not? Well, but that'd
Tune
be
in next time.
So that'd be a 37 if you roll a nat 20 on it, plus any other things that you could potentially add.
Right.
But how wild was that? I rolled a 3, dirty 20. Excuse me?
Right.
Excuse me?
I mean, essentially, yeah. I mean, rogues get the reliable talent, so you can't roll below a 10.
Yeah.
And then if you have a plus 15 in stealth, that's a 25 for rolling a 10.
Automatic base 25.
Automatic base, 25.
And that's without a trace or any other modifier, like spell modifiers you could do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've got some really dumb characters that I've built around halflings.
Because,
Because you can't
of the
roll
luck.
Because of you can't roll a one. You can't roll a one.
one. Yep.
And so it's just you can do some really, really insane things when you get to level 5, and you're just wrecking, and you're like, wait, this little tiny halfling can do this? This is not cool.
Right. And which leads into 5e being a little wonky sometimes. A lot of DMs complain above 17, it's ridiculous. A lot of spells become broken spells like Wish, and then Divination for a cleric. You can just cast it at level 20. So God can just be like, I'm here now.
Yeah, I mean, you've put in the work, though. I think that's reasonable. But then, literally, and I think we talked about this in the 4th edition one,
You have to fight
you
gods.
have to fight gods.
Yeah. Well,
Or
with
primordials, because, in some realms, the primordials are more powerful than the gods.
Right.
And with the wish spell, you gotta be very careful about how you do it, because then shit can get really fucked up for you. Like we talked about in our campaign, if we wish for no dragons, and then all of a sudden Babylon's gone, we're like, well, fuck.
All the dragon subspecies. And that's just a DM being a dick, too.
But that's the whole point, If you're gonna give people god level powers, you can let them make god level mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. Genociding a whole race of sentient creatures.
Anything that just has the tag dragon in it, eliminated from the world.
Yep. Kobolds, dragonborns.
Or didn't we say something about turning all the dragons into squirrels, and then they would just be Babylon would turn into some weird humanoid squirrel, and all the dragons would just be massive, gargantuan squirrels. That'd be another one that'd be hilarious.
But the wish spell has like specific things that you can do. Like you can't wish for whatever.
Well, it if I'm not mistaken, it gets into a point where it does say like you can, up to DM discretion, you can alter wishes, or like they can wish for certain stuff.
And even then, like they nerf it where it's like you only get 3 wishes, and then you have to roll to see if you even get 3 wishes, and then it's just gone. If you roll poorly, the wish spell is just gone. So
Yeah, so I mean, you might be able to achieve something above the scope of the above example, or beyond the scope of the above examples. State your wish to the GM as precisely as possible. The GM has the great latitude in ruling that occurs in such an instance. The greater the wish, the greater the likelihood something goes wrong. The spell simply fail. The effect you desire might only be partly achieved, or you might suffer some unforeseen consequence as a result of how you worded the wish. For example, wishing that a villain were dead might propel you forward in time to a period when that villain is no longer alive, effectively removing you from the game. Similarly, wishing for a legendary magic item or artifact might instantly transport you to the presence of the item's current owner. The stress of casting a spell to produce any effect other than duplicating another spell, which would be 8th level or lower, weakens you. After enduring that stress, each time you cast a spell until you finish a long rest, you take 1d10 necrotic damage per level of that spell.
Yep.
This damage can't be reduced or prevented in any way. In addition, your strength drops to 3, and if it isn't 3 or lower already, for 2d4 days. For each of those days that you spend resting and doing nothing more than light activity, your remaining recovery time decreases by 2 days. Finally, there's a 33% chance that you are unable to cast Wish ever again if you suffer this stress.
Yep.
Okay, so I guess you could, but yeah, the dire consequences.
Yeah. So, and I would, especially for like a homebrew game, if we ever used Wish outside of what we did use our wishes for, which were easily done feats and things like that, like I wish we knew where Snee was, or I wish all these people were healed, simple things that are kind of already listed in here.
that, and you guys opened the deck of many things, which a lot of those things can't be reversed
That too.
unless it's a wish spell.
Yeah.
So
Honestly, it's insane how many cards you guys have pulled. I mean, bad things happened, but like for the amount that was pulled, it should have been way worse. Like
I know.
it was like statistically insane
now,
every time you'd pull one.
now it's literally all like the bad ones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which,
I think there's one.
there's one or two good ones left, which I want them, but I also don't want to pull all the bad shit. I just didn't want to pull the super bad shit. Like me being transported, like my soul being transported, that was bad. But like Snee's still a part of the campaign. There's a couple of them that pretty much eliminates you, or like the one that decreases your intelligence, which would be detrimental for Snee because he's fucking half wizard. So it's like,
I think it's the Donjon one that puts you like in a spear that can't.
yeah.
You can't
So
do anything.
it's like cool.
Yeah. Again, the deck of many things. Fantastic addition to 5e.
That was another thing. They brought in a lot of magical items
They did.
as well in 5th edition.
They did. Again, they kind of the pendulum swung into role play. I feel like 5e is very good at role play because, again, your character stats kind of play into that. A lot of the stats are role play. Even like perception checks, that's kind of I think a crucial part of 5e. It's perception checks or survival checks or investigation checks, which is all kind of just role play stats. You don't really use them out in combat. But also, you do feel like a superhero in later levels because the combat, I think, is good.
kill people.
Yeah.
I mean, the combat is satisfying in lower levels too. You just die really easily.
Yeah.
But I mean, the good thing about 5e is it was made for like new players. I think 5e is super easy for anyone to pick up because there's so many there's so many different tools out there. Online resources like Roll20, D&D Beyond, where you can like create character sheets and obviously we've got the internet and you can search
Right.
literally everything.
literally anything on the information highway.
I mean, there's
Super
tons of
highway.
stuff on like D&D Wiki and
Wiki.
even like Reddit. There's tons of stuff of people like if you have like how to rule something. A lot of people on Reddit have already asked those questions, and you see a lot of people's different
opinions
on how they see it. It should be done.
Or you can even join the D&D Discord, which
Right.
is chaos incarnate.
Sure.
But the best thing is like whenever you ask a question and someone's like, well, you should check the wiki because it's already been asked 47 times. And then the next person's like, I'm sick of all these people asking the same question. It's just like, oh man, like the toxicity of like asking. Like, I see both sides of it. Yes, it's annoying that someone's asking this question, but there is so much information and so much data out there that it's hard to like parse through that and be like,
Yep.
oh, I gotta find this. And
Especially if you're new. Like there's still people who are just now getting into D&D. Michael's brother-in-law, Zach, started listening to a couple of podcasts, Dungeon Daddies, and I think it was Critical Role. And so Michael also got him into the TV show Vox Machina. But now he's like, I want to do a D&D campaign. He's like, I want to make my first character. I want to play in my first campaign.
has Zach listened to the BS roll?
Probably not.
Well, he should.
I agree.
And if he's looking to play, I know a couple people that are looking for some players.
It's true.
It's true.
So Zach, you hit us up on at the BS roll if you've listened to our podcast.
It seems like anytime one of those big podcasts or YouTube D&D groups start a new campaign, there's a whole new wave of new players that come in. Like a whole bunch of people came in when third campaign or Critical Role came in, and Dimension 20 does seasons, and they're always releasing like a new campaign.
I think they're probably one of the biggest like segues, and like all of them know each other, but like that came from College Humor, and so like that was like a big like Comedy Central like spinoff type thing. I believe maybe I'm making that up, but like collegehumor.com. So many people were like, oh, funny stuff. Oh, D&D. Oh no, here I am in this basement playing D&D with my friends. What have I done?
Yeah. And even going back to different DM styles, I think Matt Mercer and Brendan Lee Mulligan, vastly different.
Yeah.
Probably, in my humble opinion, probably the two best DMs on the internet.
I'm gonna have to go with Timothy Farr as my favorite DM.
Brown noser.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he's my favorite personal DM.
Can you roll a D20 for performance check?
Oh hell yeah! Do I have any modifiers?
You get a +4.
I get a +17, baby.
No, you get a +4.
Really, it would be persuasion or deception.
It's a 19.
Ooh.
Wait, you said a 3 or 4?
4.
Oh, then it's a dirty 20. So that's a 16 or a 91, whichever one you want to look at.
I rolled a 95 on my D20. What?
Huh?
It's a 91. I did it. So 19, does that persuade you into believing my bullshit?
Yes.
Hell yeah.
The DC was very low. I have very low self-confidence.
Take any compliment I get.
Yep. Ride that high for a year.
Pretty much don't roll in that one. You succeed.
DC was a 2.
Literally could have rolled a -2 and would have tied it. Perfect.
So here's the fancy stats that will blow your mind about 5e.
Ooh, fancy stats.
Fancy stats. In 5e in 2014, how many races were there? Are
11-2.
were there?
I'm gonna go with 7.
Nick is counting them.
Just go with your gut, man. Don't do this. Don't be lame. Coward.
I think 7 is correct.
9.
9.
Oh.
The original Player's Handbook had 9 races.
Wait, are we doing like half elves? Or is that included?
Oh,
Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't even count humans.
Humans. Yep.
Humans and half elves. I failed on both of those.
How many races do you think there currently are in 5e?
I think 11-2 is a good guess now.
You're not far off.
Higher or lower than 11-2, and by 11-2 that means 112.
The lower.
97.
76.
Lower.
All right,
Oh.
54.
You're close. 42.
42.
Oh
That's-
man, I feel like that.
Dude, that's the answer to the question of life.
I feel like there's more, but now that I know there's only 42, they can't do any more. They just have to start killing off. I don't want to say it.
Genocide.
Yeah, I don't want to say it. I
Genocide.
take it back what I said.
I mean, that's ridiculous. In 2014,
Yeah.
they started out with 9 races, and now they're up to 42.
Yeah, but I mean that's also like a cash cow. Like I don't know how many source books I've bought so far.
And that's kind of my big criticism with 5e, honestly, is it feels like DLC with all the source books. I mean, there's a bazillion source books. Some of them only add items. Some of them only add monsters. Maybe you get a race in there or two. So classes, how many classes were in 5e core?
My lucky number.
8.
13.
12.
12.
Oh,
Bullshit.
Price is Right rules. I win, bitch.
Currently there's 14. The Artificer was the first one, and then the Blood Hunter.
Oh, that is wild. That it really hasn't increased much.
But here's where it gets bonkers.
You said,
But subclasses
oh no,
Oh.
and core, what do you think it was?
11-2.
Well, most of them only had 3, except for the wizard had like 7. So 12 times 3 is 36, plus add in another 5. 41, 42, somewhere in that range.
40 subclasses.
Okay.
They currently have 82
Yeah, that makes sense.
with a total, or they added 82 with a total of 122 subclasses.
See, your 11-2 would have been good there.
Damn it.
So there's 42 races, 14 classes, and 122 subclasses.
Which, as we've talked about prior, it's just making it to where like it doesn't actually matter what class you pick.
There's a
You-
subclass
you
for it.
pretty much get a subclass to make you into another class.
Right.
I mean, or you can, dual
Multi-class?
multi-class. I was like, why can't I think of it? Yeah, I haven't played.
You
in
can
so
dual
long.
wield your classes.
Yeah, duh.
I mean, then it gets really complicated
Two-handed classing.
because you can multi-class and then you can have 2 subclasses.
This is like
Yeah.
some weird Munchkin rule. I use the cheat card.
But I
Right.
think usually it's like level 3 or 4 you can pick a subclass.
3.
Yeah. Depending
Except
on
for wizards, they get it level 2 because otherwise they don't have shit.
right. So as long as you get it up to level 3, you can have 2.
Yeah, I'll get it up to level 3.
Ooh.
But yeah,
I'm 1.5 at best.
And then you can also multi-class into a third class and have another sub.
yeah.
Like it gets real dumb.
And I mean, you can even homebrew. You can homebrew a subclass completely from scratch, or like with D&D Beyond, you can actually take one and use it.
tweak it. Yeah.
Yeah, and tweak it. So it is pretty cool.
I mean, Matt Mercer, I think, created the Blood Hunter, which was kind of a weird thing. And what was that? The second campaign.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept tweaking it, and they finally released it. So it's just bonkers that, and that again, that's my big criticism of 5e is it feels like DLC with all the books, and they just keep adding stuff and adding stuff and adding stuff.
Well, you gotta make
Money.
exactly, and
Again, it's the DLC.
yeah, they got in the hot water though for being like, oh well, fair use. You can't use our campaign. You got to start paying us royalties and stuff. And,
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And then they backed off of that, and
Because people started making their own games. They're like, okay, cool. I'm not going to call it this. I'm going to call it something different. It's literally your core rules, but I change a couple different things.
well, going back to Pathfinder, that started right around 3.5 or 4 because everyone hated 4. When did the second edition release? When all that stuff about the open gaming license was bonkers with WotC, 2E came out. Pathfinder 2E, they released that, and it's just like, what are you guys doing?
Right.
Stop it. Which leads into a little bit about the new edition. And people have been online going about that, and they're like, oh, you're still talking about 5E. Well, I don't want to talk about 6. Well, actually, they changed it into D&D 1. That was the beginning, and it was kind of a placeholder for the 6th edition. Well, now they have backtracked and gone, and it's actually 5.5, like 3.5. It's really just going to be 5.5.
It's making modifications to 5th edition.
Basically. And what they're doing, and this is August of 2023, there was an interview done, and the idea has now been pushed back to 2024. And what they're doing, it says they're reducing. The revised player's handbook will have 48 subclasses with 4 of each of the 12 classes, and each subclass and character will have its own background and stuff and illustrations. So they're kind of streamlining things with 5.5. It sounds like they're going to reduce the 122 subclasses to 48.
Yeah, I signed up and got like early access to the playtesting, and like I don't know. I think it's because I played 5e for so long that it was just like jarring to me. I'm like, I don't want to learn something new, so I really didn't give it a good shot. I mean, I don't know. I see benefits to both. It's the natural. It goes back to what everyone hated. The 3.5 versus 4. It's like the new way. It's the progression of it, and you're going to have those people that are going to hate it. So I mean, I'm interested to see what finally happens when the dust settles, because another thing that came up recently that you and I were talking about offline is there's been some shakeups at Wizards of the Coast. So
they laid off 1,000 employees.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's going to change, and it sounds like a big core of the D&D team was removed from the equation.
Larian did an interview. Larian, who made Baldur's Gate 3, did an interview because everyone's been talking about Baldur's Gate 4, of course. When's the next one coming out? And Larian said no one that we worked with Baldur's Gate 3 is even there anymore.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. And a lot of it, what I've seen online, again, this could be hearsay, it's the internet. A lot of it was art design, and they're thinking a lot of the art will go AI. And I would guess, as Phil, you experienced by creating a campaign via Chat GD.
Hit me up if you're looking for a creative director, which is the Ghost.
It's possible that the even like the what do they call those fucking books?
Source books?
Not the source books, the ones that actually have a campaign in it.
Oh,
Campaign
like the
books?
modules?
Yeah, the modules, campaign books will probably be AI generated now.
I hope they kind of like when you buy something from Amazon and it came from China and you start reading the instructions and it's just like clearly they just like use Google Translate, copied and pasted it, and they're like good to go. That's what I'm hoping it ends up being.
I mean, it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the AI is going to generate stuff, but someone's going to have to go through and fix stuff in it for
Me,
sure.
the creative director.
Right.
I mean, but if you look at those campaign books, there's like probably good 5 or 6 writers.
Mm-hmm.
Now you'll just have one editor,
Pretty much.
and then all the artwork will be AI. So you can cut down half your employees or more.
Yep.
literally with a sword. Wizards of the Coast executives are going to be running through the office with broadsword. So if you're still in the office, get out. They're on their way. They're coming to get you.
And I think that was a lot of the pushback for 1D&D is people don't want to learn a new system, so now they're just saying it's the 0.5. So it's going to be same system, but they're going to kind of condense things where it's not a bazillion subclasses now. There's only 40-something. So, they may just put all of the stuff, like the billion races, into one book now instead of having to buy all the books.
Right.
Who knows?
But, I mean, most of them, you can pretty much create your own race at this point in D&D Beyond.
Yeah.
Be like, okay, cool. I want to be this, but I pretty much don't want to use any of its stat buffs or anything. So I'm going to basically...
I want none of its weaknesses.
Right.
Perfect.
But, I mean, you can get in there and you can just be like, okay, I want to be a tiefling, but I don't want to, I just want to, cosmetically be a tiefling. I don't want to actually be a tiefling. I want to be more like this or more like that, and you can adjust. Now, granted, they're still within a set of rules, so you can't just make an OP race.
Right.
And you can do that with classes and backgrounds and everything.
I mean, you could cheat the system and just go get the core 5e and then just do it yourself, add all the other subclasses. Because all that's online.
Yeah.
All the stat blocks are online, so you can just put in those things manually.
Yep.
It's like back in the day when you could set your iPod to take on songs from anywhere before DRM was really figured out, and then you could go to your friend's house and just dump the whole their iTunes library on it, and then go to the next person, and then when people started getting iPhones and they started uploading all their stuff, they started getting hit with all these emails what's going on? It's it's asking for your iTunes email and password. So that's kind of what you could do.
The good old days.
Yeah. You can mix and match. Go to your friend's house and read their D&D books and slowly build out your entire thing.
Right.
I mean, again, that's the frustrating thing about 5e, because it's, all right, what source books do you have versus what I have? Because you want to play a race that's in this source book, but I don't have that source book. So then...
But if you have D&D Beyond, you can invite people in. And
pay their subscription fee.
Yeah, literally, you can Netflix your friends. Is the Netflix subscription.
I mean, that's why I bought the subscription for D&D Beyond, because now we're all on the same page with the source books.
Yeah.
I do like to go rogue and buy a source book that no one has and keep it to myself. And so then I bring in and the DM's what is this? What is going on? Who is this character? I'm just yeah.
I don't even buy a whole source book. I just buy the one thing in a source book that I want.
See, but that was what I did with the Loxodon. I was I want that. But then I was wait, but there's a centaur in here. And then there was a really cool, a guild, forge, a bunch of different things.
Right.
That was this would be awesome. It makes perfect sense for my character's backstory. And I bought it all. So I'm
which is totally fine.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's the one thing I feel kind of iffy about D&D or 1D&D or D&D 1 or D1D, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Is I like the bunch of options. Sometimes I want to sit there and read through all of them, and I'm this gives me inspiration. Versus if you just give me less, and then I have to think through it more, because I'm gonna have to go in and see if the different subclasses or what the feats are of these subclasses, what I can add, versus just being all right, cool. I've got this. I don't know. I like the chaos that is the current 5e. Sorry.
I mean, I like it too. It just feels very overwhelming when there's 122 subclasses.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty daunting.
Yeah.
Especially as a DM, I have to just go, I'll take your word for it, because I
do it a lot with my campaign I'm running. Is I'm okay, hey, read off what that does for me real quick. Let me just hear you, or because most of us have our D&D Beyond linked to the Roll20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can share spells. So Tim will do it a lot. He'll share his spell description into Roll20 so we can read real quick. But it's there's so much shit now. And I'm all right, read this to me. Tell me what this does. Read a situation, because they're basically in an extra-dimensional like plane within a tower and they're teleporting, and they're like, would this still be here if I moved from one place to another? And I had to like think about it and be like, well, what's the range on this? 100 feet, 30 feet. Okay. I'm like, okay, cool.
Was it that dumbass door thing you're telling me about? That they were like trying to teleport through a door and they were like a mile high in the sky? Is that?
I don't think so.
No,
Did I make that up? Did that?
I think you just made that up.
Who was I talking to? That was?
I don't know.
Well, sorry. I roll around with a lot of people that talk about D&D.
Fine. But so, like, to start with, like, there's a maze going into a tower, and it's like in a whole different plane of existence to everything else. But when you look at it, it just looks like some shrubberies, and then when you're inside, it's like massive.
A nice one, not too expensive.
Yes. But so, like, they did certain things to try and get bird's eye view, and as soon as that happened, well, they moved to a different plane of existence. Poof, it's gone. But then they're in the tower, which is all on the same plane, but there's teleporters. There's no stairs. There's no, like, going up and down in a normal way. It's just all teleporting to different floors. So then I had to look at which floor they moved to see what the range was. And I was like, okay, cool. So this works.
Were you just playing Portal?
Yes.
Nice.
That tower's stupid.
Yeah. You guys got through it pretty
The
quick.
cake is a lie.
Well, it's a stupid portal.
You're stupid. You're stupid, Portal.
Well, I mean, because like the symbols don't correlate to the room that you're going into. It's not anything obvious. It's like chair. Okay, you're in the dining room.
No, it was an audience chamber.
Audience chamber. What? And then like the square was
Square was the mess hall, basically. It used to be a laboratory, but then they basically used it for their mess hall. And then rectangle was the shrine.
like you would think a shrine would have like a shrine-like symbol.
Well, the star was the astronomy part.
You would do telescope.
I mean,
You know what I mean? Like
No. I'm with it. Like, because when I see rectangle, I think coffin. So I would think shrine.
no,
Yeah.
not at all. Not even a little.
And then,
bit.
yeah, I would think square would be like a place to eat. Like 'cause
The
it'd be a
dungeons and
square table.
hourglass.
That one I probably wouldn't get. I would think that was the waiting room.
But that's also part of it. It's like it. So it's not based off the general consensus. This tower was built by one wizard.
Right.
So he correlated his own glyphs to what rooms it did. So it was whatever his connection was,
And
preferably. But
there
yeah,
was no like key for the glyphs. There wasn't like this means this. It was just random shit. So you'd had to be like, I guess we're going here.
Yep.
Don't know what it means. Like it's just kind of like, really, you wrote it that way? Oh, okay.
the whole point I think of this tower is just like with the maze and the tower itself. It's supposed to be just confusing, and you guys are like aimlessly trying to get around, and you have no idea what's what. And that's the whole point.
is it a
So it's-
pocket dimension?
the maze was pretty much.
Okay.
And then you get through the maze, and then you're in the tower area, which you couldn't even get in the tower unless you used the teleporter, and you couldn't get to the teleporter unless you went through the maze. So it's got all kinds of stuff that makes you have to do certain stuff. But the point of it is to make you work and fail sometimes, which you guys really didn't fail that much through any of it yet.
Right.
But that's the whole premise behind that, which I think is also fine. It's almost like putting a puzzle or a riddle, but they just made it into the whole map.
See, I'm a fan of puzzles and riddles when they make sense, but if you just put generic shit on the wall and be like, figure it out, that's frustrating. Like, give me a key, give me something, give me a clue, not just...
So if I've taken anything away from this conversation is don't take Tim to IKEA.
Yes.
He's like, I don't understand this weird symbol on the wall. What does it mean? What is this woman wearing a dress? I'm going to walk in the door. Ah! Oh, sorry. It's the women's restroom. I figured it out.
See, that makes sense. Not like, I don't know, triangle.
But like talking about like a wild, crazy, like wizard tower castle thing like this. Think back to when you were 10 years old. And if you could design the house of your dreams, what would be, I know this is going off, what would be the thing that you would add to the house of your dreams? Like, what would be like, this has to be
10-year-old
As a
me?
10-year-old?
10-year-old you.
It'd be a fucking castle with like
No,
a
but-
dragon and
But
stuff.
what would be like a feature that you would have in there?
A fucking castle with a dragon.
I would
Okay.
have trapdoors. I would 100% have
Exactly,
trapdoors.
secret passages and trapdoors. So like when you think of that, like this guy designing this castle with all these different teleporters and a maze and stuff like that. Like, you think of that, he's probably drawing from like 10-year-old him. Like, oh man, this would be rad if I would have had this when I was a kid.
But it's just my frustration being like, it's a campaign book, and you just go, fuck you, figure it out. Like, you would think that there would be, all right, one of the rooms is going to have a key for the symbols, or there's going to be a book or something that you can find or something, because we're trying to get to the thing, and you just go, no, fuck you. And it's like, but give us, okay.
Have you ever been to the government building in Jefferson City? Because this is what I feel. It's like, literally, it's like, fuck you, figure it out. And then you go to the place that you need to be, and they're like, well, hold on, let me call down. And then they go downstairs, bring someone back up.
Hospitals are like that.
True, hospitals are like that.
The 4th floor and the B wing. What the fuck?
Actually, so here's a funny thing. So, because Ashley works at a hospital, they don't have an operating room 13. They have 14 rooms.
Yep.
There's no 13, and there's no number 1 either.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is it SLU Hospital?
No, it's Mercy.
Okay.
A lot of buildings don't have a 13th floor.
Yeah. Well, they have it. They just don't call it 13.
Right.
Like, changing the number on the outside doesn't change what actual floor number it is.
Yeah.
It's 12 and a half.
There's no 13.
That's 9 3/4.
But yeah, it's like and I asked her, I was like, well, okay, like I understand like the thing about number 13, which is my lucky number. But I was like, why is there no number 1? She's like, I don't know. I go, maybe there used to be a 1, and then they turned it into a different room, and it's just not operating room 1, and they didn't renumber anything else. She's like, that could be it. And I was like, how come you haven't asked this question before? Like, I'd be like, what happened to number 1? Did it just disappear? Is it a pocket dimension?
We don't talk about number 1.
Right. Was there a mass murder in 1? So it's just now walled off?
So my company that I work for, we support a client that names their conference rooms after their main headquarters, after other offices they have around the country. So they literally have a conference room named New York, but then they have an office named New York that has a conference room in it. And
it's named Chicago?
No. It's not that crazy, but it's just like so insane because you're like, oh, New York. And you're like, oh, cool. I'm going to like reach out to the New York office. And they're like, no, that's in our St. Louis office. And you're just like, why? Why would you do this? Like, name it after something else. Like, I don't care what
That's hilarious.
No, it's not when you deal with people.
I blame 5e.
Yep.
5e did it.
Clearly 5e.
Dang Wizards Tower is causing this.
I don't even remember what we were talking about before we got into that.
We kind of were talking about 5.5 a little bit.
Yeah, we're talking about
that's
5.5 and 1 and how I don't want to learn new things. Then we started talking about learning new things and not to take Tim to IKEA. That was
yes.
That was all I
That
got
was
out
the
of it.
big
takeaway is
underline,
do not take him there. Or if you want to be his worst enemy, do take him there.
Fun fact, I have not been to the IKEA.
Are we going to take this podcast at nights to IKEA?
IKEA.
Do an IKEA review on this podcast.
No. Let's just sit down at a table in IKEA and play D&D.
I'll bring my laptop, my board. Let's record.
Bring everything.
You know how long it would take for security to find us in there? I mean, come on.
I think they'd be into it. They'd probably play.
That's true, too.
IKEA would have to find the instructions to put their guns together to shoot us.
How long can we survive playing D&D at IKEA?
Oh, man, did we just start like a hype YouTube channel?
Dude, that's going to be in my next campaign. There will be a IKEA in the campaign that you go and you get your magical potions or items, but you have to put it all together afterwards, and you have to do skill checks to get it done.
In the first campaign
Sounds
of the Adventure Zone, it was Fantasy Costco.
That's funny.
Yep.
And then campaigns later, they created the Phantom Sea Coast Co. So they literally made the same thing, but
Yep.
yeah, it was good times.
I mean, Dimension 20 did Fantasy High.
Well, no, but I'm saying I'm talking about that was the store. It was a Fantasy Costco.
Right.
And that's where Ryan gets a lot of, he adds just fantasy to everything. He's like,
Yep.
fantasy gun. Oh, okay, sorry.
So that's kind of 5e in a nutshell.
And 1E and our feelings on the 13th floors.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Ikeas.
It's before Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
But you'll be
By the
hearing
time
this
this drops, it'll be after Christmas. So I hope
Christmas.
you had a good Christmas, everybody.
or a bad one if you
Were naughty?
wanted it. Yeah, if you were naughty.
Yep.
If you're naughty, come find us.
If you liked original Dungeons and Dragons,
I still want to play like advanced Dungeons and Dragons and die immediately.
right?
In real life or in
Yep,
game?
and- real life.
real life.
He's like,
We're
I-
going to do Advanced Dungeons and Dragons LARPing with real weapons.
It's like what is it? Sword Art Online. Have you heard of that?
No.
Like anime. So it's like an anime where like you get put in a game, like a VR game. Like that's the anime. But if you die in the game, you die in real life. Well, like the
Like
creator.
Jumanji?
No, but the creator, like basically, like it shoots you in the head and you die. Well, the creator of the game actually made a real headset that will do that. That'll kill you if you lose in VR.
Okay.
So,
That's
All right.
cool.
so let's play D&D in VR with these crazy kill goggles.
I like what you're pitching.
Yeah.
I'm in.
It's like the Matrix.
Or maybe we can play D&D with like muscle stimulators.
Oh God.
Oh, D12 of damage, crank it up.
Well, I mean, there's some of those laser gun things that the suits that you can wear that actually have
Yep.
Oh,
like
yeah.
pain
Well, like
receptors.
from Ready Player One.
Yeah, those are real now,
Yeah.
though. Which
Those
is
are
crazy.
real now.
Ugh. I'm reading the second book now.
Anyone find it interesting? Like, I correlate. What was the big guy's name in Ready Player One that invented the whole virtual world?
James Holiday.
James
Holiday,
Holiday.
yeah.
It makes me think of Gygax every time I watch that movie.
I mean, that's kind of the vibe, I think. Just more video game.
yeah,
And a lot more crazier.
that too.
Like Gygax or
James Holiday.
just out there. Oh.
Yeah, yeah. Like the book gets into like him being kind of a weirdo, and then the second book takes it even a step further. Like he's completely bonkers.
What's the name of the second book?
Ready Player 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad they kept the trend.
I'm kind of disappointed with the book. This is now the Ready Player 1 2 review.
Oh, you can't review number 2 until we review number 1.
I mean, everyone's seen the movie. I mean,
Not everyone.
well,
I don't think Ashley has. I will not.
Ashley, stop listening now.
No. I will not let Ashley watch it till she gets all the fucking pop culture references, because most of them would go right over her head.
I don't think anyone in like it would take her years to accumulate that
I know.
kind of knowledge.
which the movie spends a lot of time on like Spielberg franchises because Spielberg directed it, whereas the book goes into like John Hughes and like all of the 80s stuff.
And like really dives into the games, like which I like more of
Right.
versus you throwing Ninja Turtles and Sonic and Halo at me. Like I prefer the
Well, they had the
book.
Iron Giant and Gundam Wing
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but like
and Back to the Future.
the book is way darker.
It is. It is.
I just don't know how
But
to
the
read.
second one is just it does go for a real. I don't know
Did
how
you-
far. Yeah, how far are you into it?
What just happened? High five just meant low five in the conference room.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. And it's now like that first journey. I'm disappointed with it because they like made Z like a douchebag again. Like he was kind of awkward in the first book, but then they like reversed his character development and just made him a douchebag again. And
Yeah, you gotta. It's continuity. You gotta keep it going.
it just feels like he just rewrote the first book. Only now it's the sequel. I'm just disappointed with it.
Well, I think it just became like a cult classic so fast that they're like, oh my, we got to spin out as fast as possible, and we have to keep it going. So let's change things up to make it basically last longer. But I guarantee you that the movie will not be a direct reflection of the book. Same thing with the first one.
Do you think they'll make a second movie?
Oh, absolutely. They're making so much money off of that. For sure, they'll make a second movie.
I haven't heard anything about the second movie. Nothing.
I mean, but the first, I mean, the book came out and it was years before a movie came out, so
That's
it's
true.
the same kind of thing. I mean, you got to sell the book until
It's
the
not
book.
like Game of Thrones where they come out with the final season before the final books come out.
Well, that's because Homeboy was taking too long. He's like, you're gonna die before these are done, and they're like, oh, well, let's just.
Which is why I like The Expanse, because it stopped because he hasn't written the 10th book yet. And it went all the way to the 9th book.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they stopped the show because there's no source material.
Which is the smart way to do it.
Or you can just make up whatever you want because they're just gonna peddle garbage, because that's what the people want.
It's true, too.
All you need is more boobs, more dragons.
Good idea.
Yeah, can this, instead of being a podcast about Dungeons and Dragons, can this just be a podcast about more boobs and more dragons?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess that's what my campaign needs, is more boobs and more dragons.
I think we just figured out our second campaign name.
Dragons with boobs?
Yes.
Nah. That's too weird for me. Hard stop.
I mean, do lizards have multiple nipples?
I don't think they have any nipples.
I don't know.
Do cyborgs dream
That's a
of
mammal
electric
thing,
sheep?
bruh.
Yeah, okay. Sure. My dragons will have nipples.
Fine.
Do they breathe fire?
Uh-huh.
Hell yeah.
The nipples breathe fire?
Yes.
Nipple milk or fire milk. Damn, it took me a while to get there. Fire nipples.
So speaking of books I've been reading, this podcast has gone off the rails. I don't care. I read the Jurassic Park books.
Is there
Jurassic
just
Park,
a lot of roaring? Like I would love to just like rah.
they're a lot darker than the movie. Like in the first book, the little dragon or the little dinosaur things, the little guys,
little titty dragon.
like we're eating babies.
Hell yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
Wait, why were there babies there?
because they go to Costa Rica
Oh, yeah, that's right.
and there's like a population there, and like those little dragon, god damn it, the dinosaurs get out and they're like eating babies,
Nice.
and no one can figure it out, and no one wants to,
our babies are missing.
and no one wants to talk about it because the government in Costa Rica is like a travel spot, so like the government covers it, like it's way darker.
Don't
Instead
take
of-
your babies to Costa Rica.
Instead of in the second movie where the family just decides to post up on one of the islands, and then the little girl's feeding them, and then she screams, and you don't even see what happens. You just see the mom scream.
Well, when Ian goes to Hammond, he talks about it a little bit. Oh, the girl's fine. She just had a few.
Oh, that's right.
But that happens in the first book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And she gets like messed up.
I mean, they're like little land piranhas.
Pretty much.
Little land dragons.
And then the second book wasn't as good. The Lost World wasn't as good. But
No, man.
I've been reading a lot of books. It's fine.
That's good.
To supplement until we start playing D&D again in 2024, which is our New Year's resolution.
Actually, I started reading to enhance the campaign, to pull ideas.
Well,
from-
stop reading and more boobs, more dragons.
Okay. I will. I mean, I kind of
You
introduced
better go
that.
get some D&D smut, dude.
I kind of introduced that with the sexy tiefling.
Yeah.
True. More boobs, more dragons.
Yeah, and there's already
There are a lot of dragons.
there are a lot of dragons.
We know where Vegas is in our campaign.
It's true.
True.
There is lots of boobs, actually. I'm doing a good job with lots of boobs and dragons. Thank you very
but
much.
we need more boobs, more
Okay,
dragons.
Okay, more.
That's what the people want.
That's what the people want. I should totally like rip off Daenerys and like.
We're going to do a 1-for-1 remake of Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones and my D&D.
The story of the tale of flame and cold water.
Oh goodness! I hope to play again.
It'll happen.
Yes.
I hope so.
One
We're
way
manifesting that.
or another.
I mean, if we meet next week to record, it'll be the new year. So
Fuck it, let's just play.
Okay.
just the two of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the two of us.
We can kill more boobs and dragons. Just the two of us.
Gonna find all that smut.
Just the two of us.
I mean, we just need like one more person, I think, and we could play.
Oh, speaking of which, if you're Tim's neighbor and you watch D&D and you listen to our podcast, please just let us know. Just
Oh God.
yes, I haven't forgotten, Tim. Never forget.
I saw her taking out her trash the other day.
And did you chase her down?
No, I did not.
I'm glad that this better stay in the podcast. Tim's neighbor off the road that Tim lives on, who drives a vehicle with 4 wheels and parks in a garage. If you watch Critical Role, please step outside of your house, turn to the right, and just walk up the driveway and knock on the door, please.
The really shitty driveway.
I mean, so to be a complete creep, to give everyone context.
Nope, don't. No. Bye.
Nope, I'm gonna do it. I get the mail, and it's now nighttime at like 5 or 6 o'clock now. So I'll get the mail, and you can totally see into this poor neighbor's house, and you can see her giant TV and through the windows, and it obviously looks like she's watching Critical Role.
Ooh, Super Bowl's coming up. Maybe she'll have a Super Bowl party.
We just sneak in.
I've really considered knocking on the door and be like, "Hey, do you watch Critical Role?"
All right, so if you want to find out what happens, this is burgeoning love that's happening before our podcast eyes. Please add us at the BS Roll and tell us your wildest, sickest, more boobs, more dragons fantasies.
Yeah.
Love you, bye.
Bye.
The BS Roll is Timothy Farr as our forever DM, Valerie Simone as Ida Gotham, Nick Urban as Snee, Phil J. Cox as Enoch Sunforger, Ryan Freeman as Babylon Wonderhoof. You can find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and wherever podcasts can be found. Don't forget to subscribe. Leave us a review. It helps us a lot. We do not advertise, so our ratings and reviews are the best way to help us grow. Thank you so much. Love you a lot. Have a good one.